properly to be able to appreciate the proposal for 2025. If I'm talking of 2024 and somebody is talking of 2023, and then another person talking of proposals or revenue for 2025, I suspect that we'll have the proper coordination. So for me, for example, to understand why do you need this amount for 2025, I need to look at what we spent on that same item in 2024. So if we don't do it that way, I will talk on 2024, he will talk on 2025, another person will talk about project revenue, and I think at the end of the day, it's difficult to have, in my view, a proper evaluation of what is for.
So we should stay at 2024. 2024.
Yes,
We
sir.
shouldn't make reference to 2025. Okay, fine, not a problem. We are trying, this place is really hot. We want to see how we can strike. Questions? So you have the privilege.
Still have the floor.
My co-chair has appointed himself as the chief whip of this budget. So he's going to control how long and how people.
Of 2024 expenditure.
Chairman was chairman of appropriation. Yes, sir. Chairman of finance.
And I saw items like investment promotion
And
and
doesn't
protection agreement.
Yes, yes.
EE of international engagement.
In a house.
Okay, no, that's one.
We're together in the house. Yes.
I saw investment promotion, image, rebranding, and road shows.
He's chairman of appropriation.
Half a billion naira.
He has no senate. He's chairman of the house.
And this was released in full.
Yes.
I'm sure that members of this committee will be interested in knowing what exactly does this represent. The branding image, road shows, and so on.
Road construction.
Then we established a trade office in South Africa. That's correct. Item 50 on page 23.
These things are very paltry.
Just looking at some of these items, some of them appear to be overlapping issues. Item 62 on page 24. Acquisition of press equipment for documentary spotlights, syndicated report, for the production of in-house magazine on FMITI achievement. No, I do. But before then, you have on
That is how the budget is cut. Yes.
industry, trade, and investment policy research, population and development. 200 million and 196 million was released, almost 19.2%. It's nice to educate people like us what this research about, because the first one, 61, is a statistical survey. The difference between survey and research is not really clear to me. Just excuse me, that is how I understand it. And I also see number 72, page 24. Trade Intelligence Unit. I think my recollection, Mr. Chairman, last year we raised this issue with the former minister, when she said she was going to set up a new unit because she didn't have ready figures about balance of payment, balance of trade, and stuff like that. And we have to remind her that these figures are valuable even in CBN and the Ministry of Finance. Now, duplicate institutions for statistical purpose. We also have an office of, what do you call it now? Office of National Office of Statistics or something.
Yes, NBS.
So if everybody is going to set up its own in-house intelligence unit, then it compounds the problem that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is trying to solve, namely, too many institutions doing the same thing, and most of the time we are not getting any clarity as a consequence. And of course, a lot of money, when you add 50 plus 50 plus 20 plus 30, before you know it, you are running to hundreds of billions. And most of this money we now know we have to borrow it. Then now I'm a labor man, so I have no problem with welfare. But whose welfare package is this? 107 million naira. Is it welfare for the workers, welfare for the managers, welfare for the trade? Page 19, I 34.
Why are you going back and forth? Comrade.
Page.
Which page now?
19.
1934. Yeah, on page 24.
Packages.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned that. I mentioned
It has been spent now, 100%.
yeah, then I mentioned trade intelligence unit. There was provision for 1 billion, and we spent 46 million.
Standardization of the process of recycling.
Contractor not provided, and then they have the balance. And because the budget have been all over, there is a possibility of this balance be spent. So who is the contractor? Because this subhead has been 46 million.
That's too much. Comrade.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
You've done a very wonderful job.
And trade activity across 7 northern border states. We at the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment have been particularly concerned about this issue. In fact, because of this, we doubled up on activities in terms of stakeholder engagement and sensitization, on the need for export promotion through other formal means, in addition to informal across the border trade. The loss of foreign exchange and the general suppression in economic activity along there has become a priority for the entire administration. The administration has been taking steps. Indeed, with ECOWAS, discussions we all know have been ongoing and where they've landed. But whether or not countries are members, we're brothers and sisters, and trade must continue. So we continue to activate and stimulate economic activity in that area, and supporting particularly the agriculture value chain with grains production. We work very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture in making sure that the value addition and the transportation and storage, those are some of the programs that we have in our budget that we have to really step up on and make sure that we deliver on them. For this very reason that is also raised. Made in Nigeria goods are what we all must embrace and continue to embrace, but not just with mouth only. The value addition required, and I'll actually hand over to the Honorable Minister of State. We've been working on this, and you know from the agencies also under the ministry, working with small and medium-sized enterprises, vocational training, stakeholder engagement, working on value addition, the regulations that small businesses need to thrive, the single window initiative of this administration, and what that would do for us as a trading nation, really focusing on prioritizing exports of made in Nigeria goods and utilizing African Continental Free Trade Area. We continue to use that. So apart from even all our neighbors, not just in the ECOWAS region, but across the continent, Nigeria earlier, around the middle of last year, started exporting under AFCFTA, and Nigerian businesses, we continue to support them through trade fairs, internally, domestically, and abroad to showcase made in Nigeria products. These are some of the priority initiatives and programs and projects that we have lined up for 2025. In addition to the issue you mentioned around smuggling and standards, market access, and making sure that Nigerian goods can penetrate and standards to meet international markets and regional markets, we continue to prioritize increasing in production, increasing in competitiveness. The administration as a whole has instituted several reforms that have made sure that the worst of the pain is over and Nigerian businesses can now continue to produce, and we continue to support them on productivity and competitiveness with the regulations and legislation that are made available for the Nigerian private sector. Honorable Saleh talked about the IGR and the drop in IGR. This is something that is of concern to the ministry as well. We know that the economy has slowed down, and because of that and the pains of Nigerians, while we still want to really increase our IGR, we're also mindful of increasing our rates at a time when Nigerian businesses are going through a lot. So this is just a reflection of the general economy, and we expect it to be reversed as the economy has already started to pick up. So while that target may seem low, it's just in line with the trends, and we expect to exceed. This is also on the observation. I will hand over to the Permanent Secretary and the DFA are also here to speak to the specifics. Government is a continuum, and the Honourable Minister of State and I take full responsibility. However, we'll also let distinguished senators and honourable members have more details from the civil servants who are actually on ground. Distinguished Senator Adams Oshiomhole, thank you for the contributions. Always very interesting and stimulating. Rebranding Nigeria is one of the most important activities that this ministry does, both domestically. It's extremely important to us that we retain the investment that is in Nigeria. We don't want any businesses to leave, and the businesses that are on ground, we want to make them comfortable. So we've been doing a lot of activities. We have the Platinum Business Champions program. We have programs directed at small and medium enterprises. We have programs for every cadre of businesses, even nano. We have gender-sensitive programs for women entrepreneurs to make sure that around the country, and that's one thing about this ministry, our work covers every single constituency in this country. We work in rural areas, we work in cities, we work across sectors to make sure that everybody who has some sort of entrepreneurial activity and the consumers of those goods are well taken care of in terms of policies, in terms of regulations, and in terms of promotion of the work that they do from farm to market, all the way to export of our goods. It's a very important one, and thank you for raising that. In terms of data and statistics, we took the feedback. We've started thinking about how that program will actually add value to what is exactly on ground with CBN and NBS. So the project you can see is a bit stalled because we're taking time to think of what in addition the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment requires in terms of data. What does Nigeria not have in terms of data? What we know for sure is that Nigeria is competitive in the area of services. Services export data is an area that we're newly capturing. I'm glad that the chair of the Committee on Commerce, the strategy of the Committee on Commerce also speaks to digital exports, and that's an area we've been collaborating on making sure that Nigerian youth can be retrained and they can work on their laptops right from anywhere in the country once they have broadband to do jobs, outsource jobs. They can work on jobs, services jobs in the US. They work on customer care. But we're now scaling up that program, not just customer care, but making sure they work on paralegal services, accounting services. Those are some of the services the Nigerian youth are taking over from other countries. India has been a leader in this area, Philippines has been a leader in this area, but Nigerian youth have a good accent, and our time zone fits into the time zone of Europe especially, and it's quite competitive with the time zone of the US. So more and more companies are coming in to have outsourced businesses domiciled in Nigeria, and those are some of the new data that we'll be capturing, and we're in discussion with CBN and Bureau of Statistics as well to make sure that that export of services component, both within international markets and regional markets, are well covered. Those are some of the areas in which we're competitive. For the welfare packages, there's a lot that is needed in terms of our civil servants. There's the details of welfare packages, which is in the document, but which I'll also ask the Permanent Secretary to speak to. But it's actually just a fraction of what is needed. For instance, some death benefits, for instance, they're just different things that are just a little token from the government of Nigeria to take care of our workers, and it's just a very little sum. But with the staff strength of the ministry just under 2,000, you can imagine how that pattern spread across. But it's a token to empathize and sympathize with our civil servants. But with that, I'll stop here so that we can have more rounds of questions. But I'll let the Honourable Minister speak and the Permanent Secretary also contribute to this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Our chairman, Mr. Winston, said, I just make a few more comments. First on the Made in Nigeria, campaign, and to say that, like she's mentioned, we're not just going to achieve this by how many times we mouth it out. I think that we need to practically demonstrate it. The current crisis situation that the country faces actually makes this more and more imperative. And I think that in the past, one of the executive orders has tended to want to address this. So it's a matter that it's not just a matter for the ministry, not just a matter for these joint committees. It's a countrywide matter. In fact, it's going to demonstrate how serious we are really as a people and as a country to see how we can get over our current challenges. And these things are possible, but it now depends on how much we're able to drive this. I mean, within the industry sector of the ministry, I think that we're already challenged by this. And I think that within this 2025, we're going to do a little bit more things that are going to demonstrate this. I mean, we have a budget, for example, before the National Assembly, which is why we are here. And I think that we can even start from that budget in terms of what are we doing regarding the procurements that we're going to make them strictly limited to in-country. I mean, all of these things, I think, should be done, can be done, and it's cuts across the various, sectors. The second issue is about internally generated revenue. And I'm quite glad at the kind of interest it excited and the kind of interest it generated. Maybe because I've had an initial background in revenue in finance. In my earlier tour of duty in both the House and in the Senate, I have differently chaired the Committee on Finance. And I think that the issue of internally generated revenue is key and falls under the independent revenue of government. It's important that, looking at budget, and I listened to the distinguished Senator Oshiomhole, there must be a basis, really, in terms of whatever projections that you're making. If you look at the document that has been presented here, in 2023, whereas the initial projection was 1.9 billion, but you saw that, the ministry exceeded that, and generated 2.3 billion. But when it pushed it forward in 2024 to 2 billion, he could only, exceed it by just 100 million to 2.1 billion. So therefore, I think it made sense within the ministry to be guided by the performance in 2024 as a basis for the projection for 2025. I mean, we appreciate and acknowledge the kind of, budget that we have, a budget that, is very, like somebody has mentioned, talks about, it's a very ambitious budget, and therefore there is need to push a lot of these estimates as much as we can. Within the ministry, I think that there is already some initiative for the ministry to engage with the Ministry of Finance, because we're also beginning to discover some of the revenue streams of which we didn't do well in 2024, and to find out what is the reason for that. And I think that the solution to that is going to be based on the outcome of the engagement with the Ministry of Finance. As long as that engagement comes out worthwhile and positive, I think the ministry is willing and is going to be able to make these projections more than what they are. I thank you.
Thank you very much. In addition to what the two honorable ministers have said,
maybe starting from the last one. So this was where we started from, about needing support and just even trying to know what to do with the envelope we were given. And I'll let the PS speak to it in terms of general services, and it also speaks to the furniture question. These amounts are so minute that we have to do renovations in stages, in phases, different. We're in about 4 blocks in Area 1. And any of you that has been to Area 1 recently knows that, in fact, what we should be asking for is money for the completion of our permanent site, the Commerce House. Because the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, which is the face of Nigerian business and private sector, is really domiciled in the middle of the market. So these are our challenges. We're prorating and trying to see that we cover all our lines with an envelope that really, some distinguished senators and members have commented that doesn't reflect the assignment and the nature of the work that is being asked of this ministry. So those comments are well noted. In terms of medical insurance and personal costs, as well as the nomenclature around welfare also. But in terms of our substantive work, the travel will continue to recur every year because that is what we do. We're not a ministry that stays in Abuja. We go all around the country, rural areas, urban areas. We go out internationally, marketing made in Nigeria for exports. We go out regionally across the continent of Africa. It's a traveling ministry because we're supporting traders, we're supporting industrialists, we're working on policies, we're negotiating for Nigeria, we're canvassing for investments, we're canvassing for market access. These things are what are done in person. And we also do a lot of virtual engagement. Every day we're speaking to different audiences to make sure that Nigerian businesses can trade with the rest of the world and with the region. So that is where we find ourselves. I want to believe that Honorable Gaba, no, I don't think it was Honorable Gaba, must be a learned colleague, or even considering to speak about the low fees allocated for legal services. It's true. Everything you're commenting on is true. And that's why we said in our speech that we welcome the support of these joint committees. You're a constituency here, and we're partners in this work. So our final concluding appeal is for your support as we work together in 2025 to deliver for the Nigerian economy and prosperity for the Nigerian people. Thank you.
I didn't hear you speak about the equitable distribution.
So the provide for maintenance, I think it's perfectly understandable. And when I enter the place, not just the location that is bad, I think even the building could benefit from the decoration, etc. So I don't have anything wrong with that. And the number my friend was referring to, I drew his attention, is just 2 million naira for maintenance. That one, we need Mama put kind of maintenance. So I don't have problem with that. We agreed that day that in the long run, But the ministry, I'm not sure it's in this budget, since you say I agree 1 minute, that they should start to construct a secretariat in an area that is attractive. If an American Secretary of Trade or British Secretary of Trade comes to Nigeria and you lead into that place, his first conclusion is that people are just, and it's not that we have to be very luxurious, but we should to be organized and that building can be repaired. It needs replacement. And I hope the minister can initiate issues on that. But it's on page 31 that I have some concerns. Number 27, I see local travels and transport. Yes, we have training 22. Then you have these, I think office maintenance 15 million, and still I believe that is justifiable. But local travel 27, then you go down 32. You also have local travel and others. I don't know whether one local is within Abuja and the other one is, I don't know. They are all local here. Why they have two different provision, I don't know. Then you have international travel, 160 million.
Okay.
I'm not sure
After him, there will be
what explains why this are slightly differently. I'll be giving 1 minute, but as Honorable Distinguished Senator Waneno, I noticed that you have provisions for sports in the Ministry of Trade, and I didn't see any stadium or any basketball court. So I don't know where you're supposed to put sport. It's nice, I do exercise a lot, but the kind of place I saw, I don't think you have any gym there. So I was like, where are you spending these few millions of naira for training? I will ask my comrades in the Ministry of Trade whether the workers are allowed to do sports. I'll get the carry out for their training. Otherwise, I'm fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Baba, cheers.
No, yeah, my friend.
Baba,